Welcome to a thing that I'm going to try to call breakfast bits. Me and my wife are talking about it. She's going to go out and try to find some things that I liked in the past for the week's Parsha that I've noted that I liked, and then I'm going to try to share them with you, because I have thousands of literal stickers where I really liked this part, where I thought this was really insightful. So this is going to be called breakfast bits from now on. And just sort of short little videos about some things that I like in the Torah. I'm going to give a little background before I get into the Betuki Chotam, because the Betuki Chotam is a little advanced, but let me give you a little sort of background to this idea. So in Judaism, like the devil, the Sitra Achra, the Yetzer Hara, is not completely negative, right? We have to resist it, we have to overcome it, we can never give into it, but we fundamentally see that it's for our benefit that we're being tempted with the Sitra Achra, right? So when I first came to Torah, one of the big things was giving up, non-kosher food and all that kind of stuff. And now I don't even think about it, right? So every time that I resist going into like a McDonald's or going in to eat something that's not kosher, it counts as my benefit. It's a mitzvah, right? Not eating kosher is a mitzvah that you can do all the time. And so in Judaism, instead of liking to destroy the evil or get rid of the evil, we see it all as one part of God's sort of sovereign plan, I guess you'd say. It's loaded language, but sovereign plan, right? He has the Yetzer Hara in there to be able to give us more merit. He wants to give us more opportunity to overcome sin. And so he does that. And so this is going back on a little thing that we saw a few videos ago that I did, but it's here in the Petuki Chotam on this week's Parsha for Parsha's Bo, so I'll bring it out again. Now we're going to get into something about gematria and things along those lines, but I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. It also has an interesting connection to the first chapter of Matthew, which I hope to bring out as well. So, he says, Egypt said, I shall flee before Israel. Okay, so this is the verse that he's mentioning on. And he says, alternatively, we could explain as follows. As we know in Chinam 123, God's name, Kel, spelled Aleph and Lamed, is combined with the angels' names, as their names conclude with the letters Kel, Aleph, and Lamed. And this name is what gives him life. This is especially true of the evil angel, which I do not say his name, I'll call him Sam, okay? So imagine Sam and Kel mixed together, that's the name, okay? Which is the Sitra Achra, right? So this angel is the Sitra Achra. His life is entirely dependent upon the name of Hashem that is attached to his own name, as it gives him life from the spiritual forces of holiness, right? So this is the idea. Wherever there is holiness, there will be forces of klipa, forces of impurity will attach themselves. One of the reasons we wash our hands so much is because the negative spiritual forces will attach themselves to the hands, because the hands are very important in giving blessings, like in a temple, or something along those lines. So this is why washing our hands is really important. We wash them in the morning when we wake up. We wash them before we eat bread, because they are places in which are especially used for holiness, and in which evil forces can also attach. If the illumination of his name would be removed from his own name, Sam would completely die. The name Sam and Kel, spelled in full, has a numerical value of 385. Now remember this number, because this is very important. Right? Wherever there is holiness, the evil forces attach themselves to it. We find this with Yeshua. Yeshua is Messiah. This is something I believe. And we obviously have a lot of spiritual impurity, which attaches itself to his soul. We see this all over the place. As is mentioned in the writings of Rabbi Moshe Zakuta, right? So 385. When the name Kel is removed from Sam, it becomes Sam, which is also spelled mess with servitude, meaning that Sam becomes powerless and subservient, okay? So when he has this, his number is 385, okay? And he feeds on places of holiness. So wherever there's holiness, there's evil that attaches itself to that holiness. It's the food, like the body is food for the worms and the maggots, and that same kind of idea. The holiness is food for impurity. To elaborate, the numerical value of Mitzrayim toward Egypt is 385, which is the same as Sam, spelled in full. Thus the Egyptians were saying, Hashem is fighting for the Jewish people in Egypt, which is equal to the Sam, who had been reduced to mace, servitude. Therefore we have no choice but to flee. So the Egyptians were fighting we're fighting against Hashem, and Hashem was able to do that. Now, it's really interesting because the same gematria is also there of 385 is also found for the Shekinah. Okay, so let's see. Where is it here? Okay, we're going to skip over that part. But it is equal to 385. Here it is. The word for Shira, song, is spelled in full, with the added letters have the numerical value of 385, which is the same as Shekinah. The divine presence is also 385, and Sam is also 385. And so you have two things completely opposed to one another, but in Judaism this happens often, but they're connected by the same gematria. This implies that right now the Jewish people elevate the Shekinah to a higher level and united it with Hashem, right? So we want to unite the Shekinah with Hashem at the singing of this song. Now, another little tidbit that I'm going to put in here is getting a little long, but I'll put this little tidbit in there because it relates to Matthew chapter 1, and it's found in our commentary. We bring this up in my commentary on Matthew chapter 1, so when the commentary is fully finished, you can then be able to purchase it and get more of these hints, but this is just a little taste. Okay? When Israel saw the great hand, right? So the great hand is Yad, which is equal to the number 14. That is from the right side of the spiritual forces and brought about the plagues of Egypt. The strong hand, Yad Hazaka, right? So there's Yad Hagadola, the great hand. Yad HaHazaka, that is the hand from the left side of the spiritual forces, that is also 14. And the upraised hand, Yad Rama, that is from the center of the spiritual forces, that was used when the Jewish people left Egypt, as the verse says, and the children of Israel left with an upraised hand. So you have 14, 14, 14, which is 42. You see the same gematria pattern formed in Matthew in order to compare the event of the birth of Yeshua to bring about this idea of the final redemption. Okay? The beginnings of the final redemption. And the people feared Hashem. Once the Jewish people witnessed all these miracles, even the people, the simplest of them, were overcome with great fear. All of them believed in Hashem and Moshe, his servant. Now, you see these numerical things that are going on. You see this 14, 14, 14, which is 42. And you also have the idea of this redemption is getting to this combination of the Shekinah, the Shira, the song, and also the Sam. They're all combined to form the same numbers, the same words. The words Moshe B'nai Yisrael may be written with the initials Mav, which is the same as the word 42. Right? So this is Moshe and the children of Israel, hand 3 times. This is a hint that now, as the great hand was revealed to see, all 3 hands and the forces of the holiness mentioned above have become complete. Also a result of the Jewish people's merits, they brought about the miracles that were performed with these 3 hands. So this is Matthew encouraging us to do that. This is also related to this idea of all that is evil is not simply for evil, right? Like if you're fans of Lord of the Rings, Gollum, he eventually ends up destroying the ring, even though he's considered evil. In much the same way, while Yeshua has lots of impurity surrounding him, very close to him, so much so that it's hard to see his holiness. He is very holy. He is the Mashiach. He will come to bring about the final redemption, but he first has to be treated with the negative. And I believe it's the Jewish people's job to bring him back into holiness and to restore him back to holiness, to have him as a teacher of Torah and mitzvahs, and not to abandon Torah, not to abandon mitzvahs, and not to abandon oral law, but to strengthen it, to encourage it. And I believe it's the Jewish people's job to bring him back, to, like the evil inclination, to use it for good. How can you use your evil inclination for good? Think about it this week as you go through your week with this Torah portion, and try to really focus, hey, this is something that I get angry at. I need to get angry at sin. Or this is something that I really desire Torah. Something along those lines. Try to change that for this week. Thank you. Have a good Shabbos.